Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Well, I've got an exciting new kit to share with you guys today, and one we're actually going to build up too. I know we haven't done many build videos lately, and that of course is because we've been working on the new upgraded hobby store, which is about 99% done. Just some little minor stuff that I need to take care of, but it was done enough that I can finally start building again and sharing with you. And the first kit we're going to be doing is the brand new 38T in 35th scale E/F from Tamiya. A fabulous kit with lots and lots of buzz on it because this vehicle was used quite extensively in the beginning of the war, and then of course you guys may know it got turned into all kinds of other vehicles like martyrs, and then of course it was kind of the basis of the Hetzer. So it's a great kit, and I'm really glad to see Tamiya has stepped up and built this one. Now, the only thing that is from another kit are the tracks, the road wheels, and the suspension, which came out of the new updated Martyr kit because they went and retooled all that and give you link and link tracks in it. So this is all a 2019 kit, beautiful inside, and very excited to get a hold of these. I actually plan on building a couple of these in there, but today we're only going to build the one. So very excited about it, so let's get started. Okay, we're going to start out construction of the lower hull, the first steps. And now Tamiya has given you a multi-piece hull rather than the bathtub style. And actually I was doing a little dry fitting on it. It fits together really, really well. And if you use Tamiya's really extra fine sprue cutters, it only takes like one little touch with the sanding stick to get the actual thing ready to be glued into place here. So we're just going to use a little bit of Tamiya cement on this whole piece down here, and you can see that it'll just basically lock right into position here. There is a center piece here that gives it some nice rigidity to the hull that will also glue into place here. And I'm going to actually show you in real time putting this whole thing together here, because within a matter of just a few minutes you can have the entire lower hull built together. And you gotta love Tamiya for the way everything fits and the way the engineering is on this. So put a little extra down the seam here, and then of course we're going to let that dry for a little bit there, and then it's going to be time to glue the top portion of the hull on, as well as some of the other components on it there, and within a few minutes you can have the lower hull. So I'm going to let this set up a little bit because I like this to be nice and strong before we start adding any parts of the upper hull to it. That way we don't knock anything out of alignment, making sure this is nice and sturdy, and then we're going to move on to the next step. Okay, now that we've let that dry, you can go ahead and install portions of the upper hull. Once again, did a little dry fitting on this, and it's pretty much impossible to mess this up because it just kind of clicks into place here where it's supposed to go. And I like the fact on this particular piece too that you double up some of the plastic, meaning that there's this little brace underneath here that is going to support the back end like this. So that'll lock into place, and see how tight of a seam you get right there. And we can actually put a little cement up inside here as well. Let that fully set up, and then the only other piece we need to put on in this particular step is the I guess this would be the transmission, transmission cover in here, because the fighting compartment would be up inside here. So we'll glue this into place here. One other quick thing, I almost sanded this off. There's a little nub right here that needs to stay on according to the instructions. I thought it was a point where the sprue connected, but it is not. So don't cut that off like I almost did. So, and then I looked again, I go, that looks a little too perfect. So we caught ourselves before we did anything really wrong with it. So that's going to get glued into place right there. We're going to let that set up. Then we'll attach the rear portion of the engine compartment, and also there's a piece of photo etch that'll go on here too, and I'll show you that going into place as well. Okay, now we're just going to cut the photo etch out, and I'm using just a little micro chisel right here, really sharp. Little pop on that there, and get you a very, very smooth edge, one that you barely even have to sand, but we'll just run the sander over there just so there's no burr. That will get glued into place over this little grate, which you can see fits perfectly right into place there. And then the rear engine, which goes like this, proper way, will get glued in there as well. And you can see within probably about half an hour now, and most of that was drying time, we have the majority of the lower hull built up. And now we can go ahead and start working on the road wheels and return idlers, drive sprocket, all those kind of parts there. So I'll go ahead and get this glued on. I'm going to use just regular super glue on it with a real fine tip, just a couple little dots on it there, and then drop the grill into place there, and then we'll show you the suspension going together. Okay, we're just going to put a touch of cement on these 4 connection points and show you how easy the suspension all fits into place. Pop that into place there, and really can't do it wrong again, because it's, as long as you push that portion up like that, all the road wheels are going to line up perfectly on it. Pushing that up, and actually we put a touch of cement on there as well too to keep it in that spot. But you'll remember this is the same components that we used on the updated Martyr that Tamiya released earlier this year, and the suspension and tracks and all that stuff go together exactly the same way. So that quickly and easily we've got the suspension done. We're going to go ahead and do the other side, and also put the transmission covers on right here, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, we've attached the all the road wheels and idler and drive sprocket on this side, as well as the return rollers up on top. And just quickly, we'll just show you how they all go together. The front is one that gets built up, the drive sprocket I should say, not the front, I guess it is in the front. The drive sprocket is built up with a poly cap inside, so we'll put a little glue on that and get that other half together, and that way that is going to make it much easier when we go to attach the link and link tracks. So we'll get that glued up. I've already glued up the drive sprocket. We're going to glue that into place, and then it's just a matter of a little bit of cement on each one. We've already sanded these road wheels, and I already attached the return rollers up on top there, and just like that we will have all of the road wheels, drive sprocket, and running gear together like that. Now, the next thing we have to do is we have to build the link and link tracks. But right after you build that, I like to build the tracks and then take them off so we can weather and paint them separately. But with this, we have the fenders here, and what we have to determine now is I'll put these into place and see if we can get the tracks on and off still. And I think we can once this snaps into place here. We're not going to glue it on right now because we want to make sure it's going to be able to get it on there. And I think because we have a drive sprocket up front, we can remove it with the poly cap and still get the tracks on and off. And I'm going to build one set of tracks right now, experiment and see how it all goes, and then I'll come back and show you how it all goes together on the other side. Okay, we've got the tracks all on here on one side, and what I've done with them is just dry fit them into place here. We built them around all of the components and just left this final little break here in the back. Now I just dry fitted the fender into place here. If we remove the drive sprocket, we can get the tracks on and off, leaving this little break here, so that way we'll be able to go ahead and paint and weather them separately rather than having to do them on the kit. So a quick little breakdown on the tracks. I'll show you how they go together right now. Okay, and I just quickly will kind of go over how these tracks go together. You know, we get that question quite often. Right now I am gluing together the 8 individual links of track, and we just put glue on top of that, and now we're going to run just a thin little coat of extra cement across the top there. We're going to let that dry for about 5-6 minutes to the point where it's not tacky anymore, but the tracks are still flexible. So we've placed the run on top of here, and making sure that they line up, we will let these dry a little bit, and then we'll wrap them around the drive sprocket and then start adding all of the other sections of track too, and basically put a little glue on, let it set up, and then gradually just keep wrapping them around, just making sure that they're never actually attaching to the, you know, the road wheels or the drive sprocket or any of those other pieces. And actually in a matter of like 10-15 minutes you can get a whole side of tracks done like that, and they look really well. we've let that track dry for a little bit. So what we're going to show you real fast too is a little bit more, just in case someone didn't get all of the things. So those are the lengths of track that we've let dry for a little bit, and there's that long continuous run. And then the next piece we add on to it would be making sure, yeah, this piece here, which is that the run of tracks that go down from that. And with that being done, we will let this go ahead and set up for, like, once again, another couple of minutes, and then we should be able to just wrap that right around all over the top. And now that we've let that set up a little bit, hopefully I can show you how this is just going to, making sure the drive sprocket's all the way on, lining that up. Then it's just a matter of wrapping those tracks right around like that, making sure they stay nice and tight up against that drive sprocket. And then we can just add on to the next piece, just like that, and kind of, like I said, work our way all the way around. And one other quick tip, once you get the tracks already built up like that, it's good to put a little masking tape on the end to hold it. That way it doesn't put any stress anywhere on the tracks so they don't fall apart on you. So I will go ahead and finish up the rest of those tracks. We'll come back and we'll start working on the rest of the hull. Okay, with the tracks done, we can now work on the upper hull. And we'll already put the few little pieces on the front plate here, as well as gluing the fenders into place, as well as the little braces here. And then we will go ahead and attach the engine plates back here, just like that. And you can see how well they fit into place. As you can see, there is a little 2 hatches right here that you can do in the open or close position on that. And then with that done, now we can move on to the turret. Okay, in the last little section I was talking about moving on to the turret, when in actuality I had forgot to mention there are a bunch of other parts that we need to attach, which I've gone ahead and started to do. These stowage bins on the side, the fuel tanks, these little bins back here, and then some other little parts like the lights, the tow hooks, things like that. All very easy, straightforward stuff to put on that I've just gone ahead and started gluing all those on. The only parts that I'm leaving off, and that is, for now at least, are things like the muffler, where I've got to take this seam out of the middle here. Also, we want to paint and weather this thing separately. I think it's a little bit easier that way than rather than doing it on the vehicle. And things like tools, things like that, will be easier to paint off the vehicle and then apply later. So there are just a couple of other little items on here. Oh, the jack is another thing that I think is just a little bit easier to build and paint, weather off the vehicle. So there are a few other little accessories we need to attach, but for the most part, that is it. We're going to do a little finish sanding right now and clean up any of our little flaws that we have there, and then we can move on to the turret. Okay, we are gluing up the parts that make up the turret. We just got that little piece on with a little bit of glue to tack it into place. And now we're going to start putting all of the sidewalls on as well. Actually, that's going to go just like this. Fit is very, very good on all of these. Put a little bead of cement down the inside there. And that's how quickly and easy it's going to go together. Now, I started building the roof of the turret, and I just thought it was kind of unusual. The cupola is made up of, I believe, 14 different pieces that you need to put together. And I guess that's to get all of the detail from the rivets on it. So I've glued those 4 pieces in, and then the part with the periscopes in it are 2 parts that slide in here. So they go all the way around. So there's 8 parts there, plus the turret ring, and then the actual hatch itself. But pretty easy to put together. And as for the gun is slide molded, and it has a poly cap inside there, which we will go ahead and glue this whole piece in just like that, and then we'll be able to work the gun in any elevation that we want. So the whole turret is actually really simple to put together and shouldn't take very long at all. Now that I've filmed this, I'm going to go ahead and put all these pieces together. It should take probably a grand total of another 10 minutes, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like on top of the vehicle. Okay, here is our built-up model with the tracks on the side there, as you can see, and we've also gone ahead and sprayed the entire model with a coat of just gray primer, just to check to see if there's any flaws. And I see a couple little minor things I need to work on first, but principal construction is now completed. And you'll also notice too, I've assembled the figure, and we put him in the cupola, and he fits really well right on the edge there. Hand on the top of the hatch and foot up on the rim there. Looks pretty cool just like that. So now what we'll do is I'll fix those little errors that I see in here. Just little minor things that need to be sanded, things like that. And the gray primer really does help. Either really dark or really light, just so it doesn't have that reflection that the actual plastic has, and will really help you see some of the flaws you have in it. So once that gets done, we will paint the entire model black and then highlight all the panels with white, which you've seen me do on my black and white coat. And once we do that, we'll come back and then we'll spray it with a coat of German gray. Okay, we're starting the process right now of putting the decals on. So we let the paint dry overnight and actually clear coated it with one coat of dull coat. That was to seal our paint job in. And now we're putting a little Mark Fit Strong on, followed up by the decal. Also too, this is something I've noticed with Tamiya's decals lately. When you put them in the water, they kind of like hiss and fizz a little bit right there. It's kind of unusual. But it's kind of make a little bit of a noise now. See if you guys notice the same thing when you're using Tamiya decals. Now the decals are pretty basic on this. There are actually only 5 decals for each one of the vehicles, so we will go ahead and put those on. And most of those are all just the markings that go on, you know, like the Balkan Cruise and then the numbers on the side. And there'll be one more here, and then of course this is going to get duplicated on the other side. We'll put one more coat of Mark Fit over on the top of this, let this dry completely, and then we'll put another coat of dull coat on it. You'll also notice that we've attached the muffler. It is going to get a little bit more weathering as well on there. Okay, we've gone ahead and shot dull coat over all the decals, and while that's drying, I thought what we would do is work on the tracks. And this is one set of tracks that I've built up and weathered. Well, of course you saw me build it up, but now we've actually weathered it. And I'll show you what I've done to get this effect right on here. We didn't want a lot of mud because of the type of surroundings we're going to put this in, but we did want some dirt deposits inside of it as well. So it was kind of a fluke. I was moving the store, I found all kinds of stuff that I didn't realize I had, and I found a big can of Rust-Oleum, just metallic spray paint. That this one was called Soft Iron. So I thought, well, I'll try it because it looks kind of interesting. So we sprayed all the tracks with the Soft Iron, let that dry, and now we're using AK's Summer Cursed Earth, as well as sand yellow deposits, which I just had here. Sand yellow deposits right here, shaking these up really well. And it's just a matter of pretty easily, because the sand yellow deposits to start off with is a pigment inside a binder. So when it dries, you're going to get those type of pigments built up inside. So we just went and put a generous coat over the entire thing. And then after this sets up, just for a few minutes, while it's still wet, we go back and kind of model the Cursed Earth onto it and kind of blot it on. We also used a little bit of dark earth, just a touch of the pigment, and then a touch of track wash at the very end to kind of like bring some of the highlights back out and make all the shadows really deep again. So like I was showing you, it's just a matter of putting this stuff on, getting it a little messy. This part's a little bit light, and then the Summer Earth, making sure that's shaped up. And just kind of blotting that into place there. And as it dries, and of course we're going to do all sides of it like we did on the other one. As it dries, we get this effect right here. And those tracks are, once they completely dry, they are ready to put onto the tank. Okay, now that we've let the paint the clear coat fully dry, now we're going to do a little highlighting of all of the little features on this here. So what we're going to use for that is we're going to use Tamiya's XF22 RLM gray, and it's a much lighter tone of gray. putting some in a big wide brush and then getting most of it off. We're going to go over just lightly, dry brushing and highlighting any of like the bolt heads, any of these other little things. Okay, I've as you can see, I've gone ahead and put the tracks in place, and also we used some of the same colors that we weathered up the tracks with and put it into the area underneath the fenders and a little bit on the road wheels. Also did a few little washes. I've also started to put some streaking grime and some other type of weathering effects on the top of the vehicle, which I'm going to flip this around. This side has not been done yet, and kind of just give you a quick overlay. We're not going to dwell too much time on the weathering. You guys have seen me weather, if you've watched this channel before, quite a bit over the time. So what we're using right now is we're using a little bit of streaking grime, and we're going to just start filling in some of these areas around here, around the wheel wells. And this is going to be a multi-step process because we're going to put a little bit of that on. We're going to use some more of our sandy brown around the tracks, but this is like the first layer of things we're going to do. And I'm also, this is a little time consuming, but I think it looks really good, as we're using our Tamiya black panel liner, and ever so careful. Let me see if I can do this without keeping my hand in front of the camera. We've got to go through and touch every bolt head. This is my left hand, so this is not my normal. Yeah, see, I made a mess on that, but easy to clean up with a little cotton swab and actually kind of blend it in. But we're going over and touching the bolt head of every one of these, and if you do it with the hand that that actually works a little better, you can see hopefully in here how it highlights all of the things. Puts a little bit of dirt and grime on them that I think makes them pop out. Now, don't forget too, we also, after we're done with all that stuff, we are going to put clear coat on it, or dull coat on it, and that'll flatten out and blend all of that together and give it a more uniform texture and not so shiny that the enamel has on it. So between the black panel liner, the sandy brown, the streaking grime, just using it the same way we do in all the other videos that we've done, we're going to build up different layers. Actually, I'm going to probably even do a little bit more on this side too, and get it looking like it's been out used a little bit. And we don't want it totally muddy or falling apart, but just like it's been out in the weather a little bit and has a little bit of dirt and grime on it. Well, here we are, guys. Here is our completed model. And right off the top, you may be thinking, wow, there's a figure in there. He actually built the figure, and there's actually a little base. And the base is something that I just kind of threw together really quickly. These are the model scene carpet mats that are already built up and ready to go. All I did was take a piece of wood that was already had a routed edge, cut it to shape, put a little white glue on it, put some weight on it to hold it down. Bang, you've got a instant cool little display piece to show off your model kit. And then what I did also was I took a screw and drilled it down through the turret and then pushed the entire model into the sponginess of the diorama base to give it a little bit of weight, because if you just drop it on top, the piece looks like you literally just dropped it on top and the vehicle doesn't have any weight to it. So with this, it actually pushes it down. It actually even deflected the track a little bit and some of the suspension just slightly, so didn't want to tighten it too much and break anything, but you can see that works out pretty good. And as for the figure, I just literally just quickly pushed him together, painted it up, just to basically show you guys, since this is a review video of how the figure looks. It's a really cool the way they've got him sitting in the cupola like that. And I just thought that way you can see how the figures, and guys who are really good figure painters can go ahead and make that up really nicely. Okay, let's take a quick 360 view of the entire kit so you guys can get a better idea what it looks like from all angles. Like I was saying earlier in the video, the kit is due out in late November, has a retail of $38. And as you watch the video, you see what the quality and the fit and everything, how it goes together. It's just a typical Tamiya kit. Pleasure to build, and probably can get it mostly done in a matter of a day for building, day for painting and weathering type thing. If you work a lot on it right there. If not, 3-4 days is a normal time that you could get this done. So I'm very excited about this one coming out, and plan on building more of these in the future for some dioramas. Probably won't do them on video since you've already seen me build this one, but maybe for the diorama itself. So I want to thank you guys as always for watching, and please stay tuned because we have many more videos coming.